Hello and welcome everybody to New Earth Consciousness. Tanya here with Nannette Foster, who is
Woo.
an intuitive leadership coach. Yeah, and her website is nannettefoster.com. And yeah, we're going to dive into several different topics. And but before we do, I just want to say thank you, Nannette, for being here.
Thank you, Tanya. I just am so excited about what you are bringing to your listeners, and I am really honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mhm.
So when we met, you shared with me that you were involved in the church. Like that was kind of what you grew up in. And then something major shifted. Can you share with us what that was?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I very much grew up in the church. In fact, my parents had an experience in a cult, and it was shortly after they got out of that cult that I was born. And because of the way that all of that went, them their reaction, because they did not trust themselves anymore, was to come kind of tuck under the wing of my grandparents. And I ended up growing up in a very strict fundamentalist, very conservative, very structured type of environment, that I'm not even sure would have happened if it hadn't been for that pendulum swing. So, that for me, I'm such a freedom person that I always felt very stifled in that type of environment. But I grew up out in the country. So I also was outdoors all the time, and I was homeschooled, and I
Mm.
rode horses. And so I had this dichotomy between this hyper structured part of my life and then also this very freeing outdoor romping childhood. So it was a very interesting combo.
Yeah, yeah, super interesting. And of course, I mean, I think back in the day when I grew up, I think children were a lot freer to go outside and explore,
Yeah.
unsupervised, basically. All kinds of great things happened in those moments, I recall. Um,
Yes. And
yeah,
that was so much fun. And that's probably where a lot of my love for the wilds comes from. So now I live in Kodiak, Alaska, and I'll draw some of the connection for your listeners.
yeah.
But when I got here, it was, man, it was like my soul found its home moving here to this. I live on a remote island in Alaska, and I so missed that feeling of just being able to get into the wilds and connect with that part of my soul. That has been a huge part of my awakening experience. But my involvement in the church and in ministry, and that was this whole lengthy journey,
Mm.
both diving fully in. I went to Bible college, I married a youth minister, and then in the wake of that divorce,
Mm.
I came here to Kodiak, and it was this really profound healing experience.
Mm.
But I actually, when I moved here, I didn't think as important as my personal faith had become to me, which wasn't always the way in the beginning, but as important as that had become to me, I didn't expect to find any healing within the structure of the church. But I
Mm.
had a friend who invited me to a church, and she said, "Do you want to come to Flag Church?" And I was like, I have no idea what that means, but yes.
Flex. So so wild. Yeah, I mean, if anybody out there has ever heard of Flag Church, definitely put it in the comments because it's something I have never heard of. So super fascinating.
Yes. Yeah, so they call them worship flags. And they're these big, beautiful, boldly colored silk flags. And at this particular gathering here in Kodiak, Alaska, there is this basket just full of all these different colored flags. And you can come up and choose, your color and yeah, and dance and sing and twirl. And it's actually really beautiful and lovely, and I love it when the kids all get out there. It's just, to me, it represents this the beauty of unity and joy and playfulness, and the vibrancy of all of these different colors represents diversity. And it was just this part of me that I didn't realize that the spiritual and the earth, like I've always had these two different sides to me
Mhm.
as far as like what really sparks me. And now I have a motto: I am head in the clouds and feet on the ground.
Yeah.
So this very embodied experience, but for so much of my life it felt so separated.
Yeah.
And that really is the illusion, is separation.
Yeah, absolutely. What strikes me, it's so funny when I think about my journey in spirituality, it was like, I was drawn to meditation. And so,
Mm,
you know, going to, an ashram or whatever, it was like very serious,
mm,
very serious. Like, it was not okay to be too expressive,
right.
actually. And
Mhm.
so, I love that, you're this connection with that spirituality can be experienced as
Mm,
something that's very freeing, very open, very expressive, very joyful, play like I think we as adults and humans we forget that play is actually a human need. It's
yeah,
not like some kind of optional thing that maybe we pick every once in a while that we don't really need it. It's like, no, you actually need it as a human to be a whole human. So I'm
that's so
just, as you're
true.
describing, of course, my mind is just creating the images and imagining myself there, and I can imagine what that kind of experience would feel like. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so freeing. Um, and then I would get my own flags and then go out on the beach. And that's just a different level, is just to like do your own thing out in the open. But it reminds me of ecstatic dancing.
Mhm.
And I have some friends who are really into ecstatic dancing, and um, I don't know. There is something about that beauty of playfulness and expression.
Mhm.
And as adults, those adults who are actually the most spiritually mature are the most playful.
Right. Yeah.
You
Right.
know, like it's one thing to be very adultish about life, but and responsibility is important. Freedom, the yin and yang of of freedom is freedom and responsibility, right? We're not forgoing responsibility,
Yeah.
but the two do go hand in hand. And if you only have this overwhelming sense of responsibility and you're not actually enjoying your life, and you're not unwinding and actually allowing yourself to enter into that play or even just wonder, right? Some people may not be interested in like, oh, give me some flags. Like that may not be appealing to them, but taking a walk in the woods on a snowy day,
Yeah.
and just immersing yourself in that wonder, it still opens up that same kind of portal, that same connectivity.
Yeah, I think anything where you get to forget yourself, I mean, when I say forget yourself, meaning like forget your story, forget all the different ways you've labeled yourself of who you are. I mean, I love ecstatic dance too, and there's always sometimes you're not really motivated to do it, but then you get into it, and if you really surrender, okay, I'm just going to surrender myself to the music, and eventually
Mhm.
you get to this place where you're not the one who's dancing. It's like something else is
Mhm.
dancing you. Like you are
Mhm.
totally surrendered to your spirit
Yeah.
and allowing it the freedom to really just let go. And
Mm.
it's ecstatic, right? You get to that
Yeah.
place of feeling free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love it. Yeah, really the divine dance is something that is a huge part um of my just the way I actually do life.
Mm,
So when you're expressing that, I'm like that to me that's my language
mhm.
for that experience, and to me it really helps to build trust, and it does help to feed my soul and nourish my soul and spirit, right? So that when those hard things of the reality of this world show up, and they will, you know,
Mhm.
I've had a nice long drink of something that's nourishing and goes beyond the realities of this earth world,
Mhm.
and that is part of, to me, what really sustains my joy, my ability to stay in that place of joy and peace.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about this word rewilding,
Yeah.
because that is definitely, I don't think that word has been around very long. I think it's something that's kind of been born in the last, I don't know. I mean, at least
Mm.
not before my lifetime. I don't think if you asked my grandparents what's rewilding, they would be
Yeah.
like, "What are you talking about?" So, yeah, it's been a word that I've been encountering a lot, a lot of people talking about how do we how do we get back to being human? And so there's this, yeah, this wild, connecting to the wild, as as a path forward for ourselves to get out of this very stuck, patriarchal, um, heavy paradigm that's we're seeing crumbling. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tell us what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah. Well, rewilding is actually a term that comes from um, land that has been over cultivated,
Mm,
that has been overused. And at a certain point, that land actually stops, like there is no natural ecosystem like there used to be. The soil changes, it usually it gets depleted, right? And so rewilding from a biological standpoint, from a horticulture, I guess, standpoint, is to let the land rest,
mm,
to remove as much of the structure or barriers as you can, and to actually allow the natural surrounding ecosystem to take it back over. So when birds, are flying over and they drop seeds, when when dandelions release their seeds and they're caught in the wind and they come and plant themselves, when those oh, which trees are they that have the little helicopter things on them?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Aren't those
Maple trees?
maple? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when those fly through the air and they land on a piece of land, it starts to bring back this ecosystem that there's actual a variety that can grow, right? There are deposits. Critters start crawling on it again, and what it does is it starts to reestablish that space and bring it back to its original intent, its original design. So, as humans, one of the things that we have done is to hyper or over cultivate. Now, cultivating, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you can cultivate beautiful things like gardens and these ecosystems that can be very healthy and sustainable. But we can also really damage the land.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can take that same type of concept and we can apply it culturally, and we can also apply it individually, because we've all been conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
And a certain amount of conditioning is a part of just functioning on this planet, right? We teach and condition our children. And hopefully we also provide them with autonomy and tools, and then we release them to, and help them to make their own choices and do their own thing, right? We're not here to control them, but we
Mhm.
can sometimes get into positions where we are not just operating within systems, but we are immersed so much in those systems that our brain has gotten wired according to those systems. And that is where we get into that over cultivating or really being controlled by our subconscious, which has been conditioned
Mhm.
by all of these different systems, many of which either have toxic elements or are just very toxic.
Yeah. So it's really, yeah, returning to what is
Mm.
our actual soul blueprint, you strip away all those things. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. It is interesting that you bring up blueprint because one of the things that I do with my clients is I lead them, help them unveil their intuition blueprint because intuition is one of my primary topics. I really see intuition as being almost like this umbilical cord
Mm.
connection
Yeah,
to it actually feeds us with that original blueprint. So it's never lost.
right.
And when we connect to our intuition and really begin to learn it and really begin to partner with it, then we can actually that will aid us in that rewilding process because it reconnects us to who we are, even before our feet hit this planet and we start going through this conditioning process.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about intuition this morning, and I think people tend to diminutize it, like, oh, you're really intuitive, like you just get people or you get good hunches, and it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, yeah, that's part of it, but I think there's a much deeper level, and I know like Rudolf Steiner actually talked about intuition as a spiritual path in and of itself,
Hmm.
really like listening to and following that intuition. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, well, it's funny because the word cult, I'm like, how do you cultivate your intuition? Right?
And
You
cultivate is
know,
actually a great word. It really is.
yeah, yeah,
It's that
yeah. So I guess,
intentionality.
yeah,
Yeah.
how do you strengthen? Because yeah, it really is such a powerful, it can be such a powerful, I don't even know what to call it. It's like, because it's not an energy. It's just like,
Mm.
it's connected to wisdom. It's
Yeah.
connected to your own knowing. It's like knowing that you know, but you don't know why you know. You just know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so how can one cultivate that? Like, because it's true. I mean, I think we've all had our moments where we kind of, where the mind, our thinking brain, logical thinking brain can override our intuition and be like,
For
no,
sure.
no, no, this is
Mhm.
gonna work. This is what I'm gonna do. And
Yeah.
then you totally ignore that silent
Yeah.
voice or whatever, and you go for it, and then you're lost, and you're like, oh my God, how do I get back to my authentic self, right? I
Yeah.
mean, intuition is really just about how can I, yeah, how can I live an authentic life?
Yeah, live an authentic life and like and part of that authenticity, not part of it. The starting part of that authenticity isn't the expression; it's actually the alignment, the congruence with who we are, right? And then the expression emanates from that, comes from that. Kind of like going back to that word of cultivating. Let's say you're cultivating this really beautiful garden.
Yeah.
Um, the expression is the bloom,
Hmm. Hmm.
but the intuitive piece is actually more like how the roots connect with the soil
Right.
and draw from that. So
Mm.
here's kind of my working definition of intuition, and maybe this will help a little bit. And I love that you brought up wisdom. So I like to say that intuition is an inner guidance system. So the word system itself is not necessarily a negative, which I can expand on in a minute. Intuition is an inner guidance system that connects us to higher wisdom. And it also guides us along our aligned path.
Mm.
So we are getting both this connection to this eternal wisdom that we can tap into. And it also has this directional flow. And those who are highly intuitive can really tap into that flow and stay in that flow. And that is just the superpower. And that's not to take anything away from more rationally wired thinkers. They have amazing ways of thinking, and and again, it's not to take away from that. And also everybody has intuition, right? So
Mhm.
even somebody who is more of a rational, logical thinker, they can learn to really stay attuned. So if their intuition gives them a hard stop or they get a gut feeling, that can really benefit them to know that that's a checkpoint that they don't just plow forward, right?
Mhm.
But those that I consider highly intuitive, that's more of that, your actual internal operating system is so interconnected, intertwined with your intuition that you cannot, it's the first thing, right? It is that river that you're running on. And then when you step outside of it, when you step outside of that current, you will feel the difference and you'll be like, okay, I'm out of alignment.
Mhm.
And then you step back in and you're like, okay, now I'm flowing again, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that that answers your question, but I wanted to go back to like that. Let's just kind of root into what are some of those elements that make intuition intuition.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. And I feel like, mm, how do I ask this question? I guess, when you say alignment, I'd like you to talk about that because I feel like there's a lot of coaches out there that say, oh, well, the reason that you're not successful is because you're not in alignment or something like that. And I feel like to me, the way that lands, it's kind of like, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true because you could be totally aligned, but just because it could be that the world is not ready
Mm-hmm.
to receive what it is that you have to offer yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Right. Allowing for the timing is
yeah.
part of that as well. Yeah. And I was literally listening to somebody that I admire and who said almost exactly the same thing. And I don't, what's interesting is that I don't disagree with that. I just don't think it's the whole conversation.
Right. It's not the whole conversation, but I think
Right.
people get trapped in that. They're like, oh my God, because they could be brilliant
Yeah.
and totally lit up with
Mhm.
life and what they want to do and, expressing it all, but, they're stuck in getting it out or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many more nuances to that, I think.
Well, and when we are on a track where we are growing more and more aware, where we are learning ourselves and all of these nuances, and then learning to embrace and honor that inner, like who we really are, right? That true self piece. That's a journey. It's not a one and done thing, right? So we can be on that path of alignment and that timing hasn't hit for the dreams and the hopes and the visions that we have for the future. That doesn't mean you're not successful.
Mm.
There are people who have had wild success in certain areas who have not loved themselves
Yeah, they're
maybe the way
miserable. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, I do believe pretty deeply that when we can actually shift our definition of success to really loving and honoring who we are and really being on that track where we're like, okay, well, I'm not chasing something, right? Because when we're looking at um circumstances, right? So that's just a simple way of saying it. When we're looking at circumstances to define us and we're chasing after those,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like I'm passionate and I'm pursuing a dream, right? But the reality is there's a dream behind that dream. I have a friend, and my friend Christy says this. She's just said this once, and I was like, I will never forget that. There's a dream behind a dream. So we might have this dream, and we can put put a vision board together. We can put a picture
Yeah.
together. We can put an image together. But what is that central dream? For me, I want freedom and I want harmony.
Mm.
I want freedom in every aspect of my life. And I want my relationships to be such that we are moving in harmony. And it doesn't mean that there's no conflict. Like I'm not being blind, right, to the fact that people be people in, okay? We just like, we have our moments.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my deep inner desire, that's really important for me. I also have a deep inner desire to have a life of adventure. And at different seasons of my life, that looks very different, from other times. I might want to travel the world. I do. Okay. But right now, that's not the core of what my adventure looks like.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's true. I think we can get hung up on form rather than, okay, well, what's the feeling behind the desire for that particular form? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's dive into leadership because I feel like we're in such an interesting time right now, and I mean, I feel like I struggle in some ways because the way leadership has looked in the past looked a certain way, right? And it worked. I mean, I'll just, corporate America, for example. Like I've never been in that world, so but
Mhm.
I can imagine, like to a degree. Like, I mean, I've seen the movies, right? Wolf on Wall Street or whatever that one
Yeah.
was called. That was, oh my God, I couldn't even finish it. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we're in this like in between place collectively, right? Okay,
Yeah.
there's the old paradigm, and we have a
Mhm.
sense like there's a new paradigm that wants to come forth. And we know that we need leaders for in that new paradigm, but that new paradigm hasn't even been written yet. Like we're creating it
Mhm.
as we go, and there's no roadmap. So I'd love for you to talk about that. So what is then if old forms of leadership are don't work, power over, authority, whatever. I
Right.
mean,
Hierarchy.
negative authority, yeah, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. What is leadership now, or how do you see it? Like, what's the way forward with that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say that authoritarianism and patriarchy and hierarchy are all pillars of the old paradigm, and the results of those old paradigm have been burnout
Hmm.
and mental illness, and just,
Yeah.
in my opinion,
Well, even physical
so many
shutdown, like let's not
disasters.
forget that. I mean, people's physical health, like isn't that,
Physical health, yes,
like
exactly.
they're in the hospital, like my body's
Yes.
shut down.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So there are, I would consider that, I would say this, there are um, some people who have in the past been able to sustain a certain amount of success, maybe not in every area of their lives, but in some areas that are very visible. And that has perpetuated this idea that not only is this possible as a leader, but this is actually like the way you have to do it as a leader. And that's just not true.
Mm.
Okay. And as we've had, and I don't want to make this a male female thing, okay, but I will say that there is a masculine energy very much that has driven that, and as we've had more women come in to leadership and leadership roles, at first it was like, well, how can I do it? I can do it as good as men, right? And so then they were trying to do it that way. And right now, one of the biggest waves is to bring like feminine energy in, not to battle the masculine energy,
Hmm.
but actually to say, like, hey, you've led the charge, but like, let's come together and have this rhythmic softness that actually cares for our whole being and makes this it makes leadership sustainable. It also makes it based on connection and really seeing people as humans,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Having this nourishing, nurturing effect and saying, like, it doesn't have to be that you come home to recover from work.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And just having there be this subtle shift is opening people up to this concept, this idea.
Yeah.
So, one factor is recognizing that masculinity and femininity are supposed to be partners. They've always supposed to be partners as far as that energy goes. And that is not only no different in leadership, but we have just been starving for the feminine side of things.
Yeah.
So, adding that femininity in and even like showing all of the benefits of that and believing it in ourselves or like even testing it, try it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Try out building extra margin into your schedule.
Yeah.
Try out making self-care the first thing you put on your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
I feel like the Scandinavians have it better figured out than we do.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, there
right?
are.
Like, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we really don't need to be working 40 hours a week or, with no paid vacations ever. Like, that
Yes.
actually, companies find that they're far more efficient and creative and
Yes.
profitable when people are rested and
Yes.
nourished and,
Yes.
yeah, like you said, and the relationships. I think that's so important because it's like, come on, like if we're spending most of our time in our business or
Yeah.
with our company or whatever it is that we're doing, those relationships, it's like, oh my gosh, what a world of difference it is
Yeah.
when the people you're surrounded by you actually love and care for versus going into a job that you're like, I hate my boss.
Yes.
Right? It's
Yes.
it's terrible, but it really, like, I mean, I have a dear friend who's experiencing that, and it's painful to
Mm.
watch because it's like nobody's willing to address, and she feels quite honestly terrified to express her feelings
Mm.
because she's like, I might get fired. Like the whole thing is so upside down, right?
It is so upside down. And that's, I mean, we could pretty much take everything and flip it on its head and start fresh. And that would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh. Can we just get a spatula and just flip it
Yeah,
on the frying pan? We'll be good. We'll be good.
upside down, but
We won't be
actually frying
burnt on the
upside down.
bottom anymore. We'll get it like a nice, even, well-cooked pancake.
Well, and you always have those burnt pancakes first, and we're just going to call the old paradigm the burnt pancake. We've got the right temperature now. Let's go ahead and start over. Put a little
Yeah.
extra oil down.
Something. Get the right pan. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
It's too funny.
Oh, I can I tie in this thought. I really do I really do believe that the entire idea of separation,
Mm,
which is let me put it this way. Unity and oneness and the understanding that we are all connected,
mm,
right? And that what I do affects others and what others do affects me, and how my energy is embodied and expressed has a ripple effect. Just knowing that and being aware of that shifts the way I go about my life. right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and to me, it's such a marker of awakening and awareness. So, whether we want to call it awareness, consciousness, awakening, taking the red pill,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? It really is about awakening from this illusion of separation. So instead, and then that undermines this whole us versus them, you know, dynamic that we have going on in the old paradigm, which is so prevalent
Pick a
in our
side.
culture.
Pick a side. Which side are
Oh
you
my
on?
gosh. Yes. I mean, politics, culture battles, toxic systems exist because this can be perpetuated, right? And it really is dehumanizing. And that's what hierarchy does as well, is it assesses the value of someone based on where they are on the ladder. And when we become awakened and when we start realizing that, like, we are all having a human experience, we are all spirit beings having a human earthly experience, and we really are in this together,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
That shifts things.
Yeah.
And then when we see that, yes, we are all one, and yet there's unity with distinction, which is why, yes, that personal expression is still important, right? So sometimes we have this idea that because we're one, it means that we can't be individual. That's not
Yeah.
true.
How about being the same?
It's
Yeah.
yes, it's not about being the same. We're all a part of the same tapestry, but like we get to be our own, unique thread combo. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good metaphor or not, but but I'm gonna use it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. There's a uniqueness not only to, I feel like, the individual, but there's also uniqueness in the connection, right? Like, I mean, I
yeah.
experience it in so many different ways. Like, you know, if I'm interviewing somebody, that interview with that person is a unique experience and it's going to be very different than
Mhm.
this interview that I'm having with you. The energy is different, the experience is different.
Yeah.
And so, which really just points to like, yeah, there's just unlimited expression of that wholeness, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
love
much
how you brought that back
creativity.
to the
Yeah.
wholeness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, going back to the beginning and just imagining a group of people waving flags together, there it's undeniable that there's something that happens when a group of people come together, perhaps with an
Mhm.
intention. Like there is a group field, energy field that's created and can be
Mhm.
felt.
Yeah.
And you can't, because, right? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you dancing alone on the beach with your flags
It's
is
different.
very, very different.
Yeah, it is. There's that synergy when you are in this, like you said, coming together with the same intention of one mind, of one heart, however you want to put
Yeah,
that, where you're gathering
yeah,
and you're in a space. Um, Man, it's so beautiful
yeah,
and powerful.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have one little really short story about that. And this was many, many years ago in my 20s. I was in a yoga teacher training and they had this, the peace poles. Do you know about this? It's like they have this big wooden pole and it's a prayer for peace in all different languages. They
Okay.
have this whole ceremony around it. They're all over the planet.
Yeah, I did
Anyway,
not know. I'll have to look it up.
yeah, and so anyway, this ashram, had invited whatever this organization, I can't remember their name, to do this peace ceremony. And there was a large group of us. I don't know, it was a huge group, and we all linked up. And we actually had flags now that I remember.
Ah.
I feel like I remember flags, but anyway, our job was to,
Mm,
from the outskirts, right, this large circle, to
mm,
march towards this pole and we chanted, "May peace prevail on earth." May peace,
mm,
and we just said that over and over and over again.
mm.
And it was this amazing feeling. And the young man next to me, it was hilarious because he was this like super shy, kind of introverted guy, like from Germany. He's like, "This is the best day of my life." It was just like, and I was like, "Yeah, I feel that. I'm so happy for so
Yeah.
genuine, so incredible. But yeah, like there's just
Ah,
yeah,
so good.
there's so much untapped potential, and I think we're beginning to tap into that. So I'm just, there's
Yes.
hope.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. I agree. There is hope. And when it comes to when it comes to leadership, first of all, it doesn't have to all look the same. Okay. When I say the word leader,
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about C-level executives, right? Like you can be a domestic CEO, you can
Yeah.
be a coach, an artist, a writer, it doesn't matter. When you are a person walking this planet, you have a sphere of influence. And no matter where or how you are planted in that sphere of influence, you have opportunities to lead. I avoided leadership
Mm,
positions for 20 full years because I had a really bad experience as an RA in college.
mm. Oh, yeah. I can
And then
imagine. You were in charge of busting everybody for their
I was, and it was such a
again.
bad job for me. And at that point in my life, I had no other leadership training. I had no good, like a model for that type of thing. So I just did what I was told, and I lost friends over it. It was so
Yeah,
sad.
terrible.
I
Yeah.
was so terrible, but I was like, I'm just not supposed to be a leader. And so then I wouldn't take management, supervisory, anything that looked like I'm like, put me in charge of systems, not people, like I'll liaise. I just don't want to be in
Yeah.
that position
Like you didn't
where
want to tell people what to do.
I didn't want to tell people what to do. And relationships are so important to me. I
Yeah.
didn't trust then that I could lead and actually have a healthy relationship and healthy dynamics with the people that I were under me, that I was leading. So then fairly suddenly I became a leader of a team, my entire, like a pretty good sized team. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, is this a crash course in leadership? And I looked back and I realized maybe I haven't officially been team leading in like a from a seated position,
Mhm.
but I have been mentoring and guiding and influencing my whole life.
Mm.
But that's just because it is an embodied expression of who I am. And did I need to learn a few things when it came to team leadership to be a good team leader? Yes. But a huge part of that was just reclaiming who
Mm.
I am as a leader.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so I'm guessing that's what you help people. That's how you coach, right? Like helping people reclaim, well, their leadership or,
Or if they know they're a leader, I help them reclaim their intuition. So
gotcha.
then
Yeah.
they can reclaim who they are actually, like who they're designed to be as a leader and lead from this embodied, aligned space
Yeah.
rather than trying just to emulate a model that looks like it's working, right? So there's
Totally.
this model, this pattern, this training technique,
Right.
and instead of trying to shove themselves into that box,
Right.
it's like, actually, let's go on this little self discovery journey and actually figure out, like, learn what your unique, like, how you actually feel when you are tapped into your intuition. Because 10 times out of 10, they're already operating intuitively. They just
Yeah.
don't always know it or know what to look for or recognize. Like you said, sometimes it's that sense of knowing, of like, I don't know how to describe how I know this, I just know it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more of a feeling, sometimes it's more of like how their body feels, and
Right.
really getting back in touch with that.
Yeah. Trusting it.
So yeah, and I love doing that. My favorite is actually working with people who know that they're leading, although I don't mind helping people also see that they're a leader, right? But I love working with people who know that they're leading, but they're really tired of doing it the way they've been taught to do it and something's not working.
Oh, wow, very cool. So,
Yeah.
how can people work with you? What's
Yeah.
the process?
So right now, I am in my one-on-one coaching season. In the past, I've done some group stuff. Right now, all of that is on hold. And so right now is a great time to work one-on-one with me because in some ways I'm more accessible than I probably will be in the future when it comes to that type of format.
Mhm.
So I really love working with leaders, creators, or messengers, somebody who's a writer, who's a speaker, and helping them learn their intuition blueprint
Mhm.
so that they can really operate according to their design to create their own systems rather than just squeezing into the systems that have been created for them.
Awesome. Beautiful. Wow. This has been so much fun, Nanette. Thank
Yay,
you.
it has
I,
been fun. Thank
it
you,
really
Tanya.
has. Yeah, thank you so much. And everyone that's watching, please like, share, and subscribe at NannetteFoster.com. Again, it's her website. And so thank you all for watching. Thanks again, Nanette. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
we'll
been wonderful. Thank you.
see you all next time.